I'm Simon. I've been married to Margaret for 39 years. Margaret's drinking problem really started about 5 years ago, when round about the time her sister died. And then it's got gradually worse over the last 6 months since she retired. I'm not retired yet, I'm still working part-time. But then we had this incident a few weeks ago where she was caught drink driving. And I think since then the shock might have made her tail off with the drinking a bit, but I'm not so sure. Around the house she's sort of lethargic and argumentative. It's got to the extent where we actually more or less live in separate rooms. We go separate ways to avoid the conflict. And well, we've got this big 40th wedding anniversary party lined up, and I've just been turning away from it. I was surfing the net on the new computer because I thought there might be some ideas there on, on a trip we could go abroad after the party perhaps, or maybe even before, I don't know. And then I came across this website which was helpful to families, and so I thought that looks good, and I had some good stuff on there, but I'd really like to talk to somebody person to person, and that's why I'm here.
So do you want to just start off by telling me a bit about what sort of things have you been doing to try and, respond or cope with the situation? So you're saying the main ways that you're responding at the moment is that you're tending to do most of the shopping.
Yeah.
And I guess what you're describing is that if you're doing the shopping, if you buy the alcohol, that's a way of you trying to cut down how much comes into the house. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And as well as that, you're kind of tending to do most of the driving now, and so that's sort of a way of trying to...
Well, all of it, actually.
You're doing all the driving?
Sure, yeah, because I don't know how this drunk driving thing's going to go.
Of course, yeah. So you're just wanting to make sure that, that you're both safe in that respect. And also, the other way that you're coping is, starting to spend a little bit less time with friends and trying to, and I guess making excuses for not meeting up as much.
Yeah.
And... that includes sort of, you haven't really sort of talked as frankly with your son about what is happening.
That's right.
Yeah, so those are the main ways that you're responding.
Yeah, and I think that you mentioned talking there. I'm finding that, we were arguing a lot, Margaret and I. So what I've tended to do now is to just sort of basically avoid that situation by more or less physically living in different rooms, really.
Right.
To sort of, if there is a bit of tension or something comes up, I'll tend to sort of withdraw and not confront the situation, but rather just sort of let it lie. Yeah. And I'm finding that's easy to cope with. I'm not sure whether it's the right way strategy. But.
Yeah, and I guess I can hear from your voice, it's quite a tough thing to admit that, she's your wife, you've spent many years together. I think you were describing you've been together 39 years. And,
that's right.
And actually being in the same house, but almost living separately, that's a hard thing to actually have to come and say to somebody like me at a place like this. If you could go away from today's meeting with a sense of how you could still have this party, but also have a sense that you felt that it wouldn't go wrong, and you'd have ideas of what to do to be able to have the party, but your wife's drinking not to be too out of control. That would be something that'd be really useful for you to live with today.
Yeah, it'd be like a big weight off my shoulder, because that's, because I know that. Well, the two kids are really looking forward to it. They're really getting well excited about it.
And I get a sense of how really important this is to you, because it's a way of sort of like bringing the whole family together, and it would be something that would be really enjoyable for all of you if you can find a way of dealing with it that will make it manageable. Yeah.
Well, it's important because I feel that if we can get through that, if I can get to that, and I mean, it's not easy to speak about your own wife.
Well, let's take a look at that. I mean, just to start that off, really, in terms of looking at ways forward. Family members tend to respond broadly in three ways. Some people, sometimes can stand up to it. That's a sense of trying to, influence the person to change their drinking or drug use. Some people prefer to what's called to tolerate it, which is just to put up with it for now. Sort of, in some ways just, cleaning up the messes that are there, looking after the person, but not really confronting or trying to get them to change. And a third broad way that people can sort of respond to dealing with alcohol or drug problems can be, they can sometimes withdraw, so that from the person that's drinking or using drugs. So it can be spending less time together, or actually moving away from the person altogether. So there's those three broad ways that people can tend to use to cope or respond. Do any of those sound familiar to you based on what you've already said? Yeah,
I mean it's a mixture of all three really with me, isn't it? There's elements of each strategy or each, I'm using all sorts of things in various situations according to what she's behaving like at the time and how much she's drinking.
Yeah, and that's what we tend to find with most family members. They'll find, they're doing the best that they can to cope with the situation as it is. So they'll use whatever way seems to work in different situations. If we go that step forward and we look at, okay, you're planning to have a party, but you're not wanting your wife, when the party's happening, to be drinking excessively, for there to be a scene and the effects that has on you and other family members. Yeah. Looking at the ways that you could respond, have you got any ideas of what you might be able to do to manage the situation?
Well, what I've been doing at the moment is withdrawing from it and not. Okay. That's one. But I think first of all, I've got to sort of bring it up with my kids, with my son in particular.
If you were able to do that, if you were able to actually speak to your son about, the party's coming up, and you're concerned about, your wife's drinking, if you're able to achieve that, how would that benefit you? How would it support you?
Well, it would take a lot of worry off her mind, and it would know that I would be clear that he understood what's going on. Yeah. And I'd be, happy that he knew the truth really, what's happening behind, and it's not all happy families at his mum and dad's. Yeah. But that would be a big weight off of mind.
Yeah. So there'd be some relief that he'd know about the situation. He might also, I guess start talking to you a bit more about how he can help you on the day with the party, and maybe it may sort of improve the communication between the two of you. Are there any disadvantages if you were to do that? Anything you...
Well, he was always that particular son. He's more involved than the other one. I mean, he was always very close to his mum. Right. So the disadvantage is that he could sort of flare up. Yeah. And say that, it's me that's driven her to drink. Right. He could say anything.